Welcome back, Pinheads. Today I wanted to go ahead and discuss something I was thinking about. I've been watching some things lately, as I usually am, and this kind of crossed my mind about how back in classic horror, the final girl wasn't just a character, she was the moral compass. She was resourceful, cautious, observant, the one who followed the rules. The message was clear: survival equals virtue. If you were smart, careful, and morally grounded, you lived. The villain was chaos, and chaos had to lose. That wasn't just storytelling, that was reassurance. Here's the problem: modern audiences don't live in a world that feels predictable anymore. We see injustice go unresolved, villains succeed in real life, messy outcomes everywhere. So when horror gives us a neat, clean survival story, it can feel fake, too safe, too tidy, too comforting. And horror isn't supposed to comfort you, it's supposed to disturb you. Let's be honest, modern horror fans love the villain. Not just fear them, love them. We track their strategy, creativity, psychological depth, and mythos. In many films now, the villain isn't just an obstacle, they're the most interesting person on screen. So when they lose in a predictable last-minute reversal, it feels like the story cheated. Modern horror thrives on one thing: uncertainty, because uncertainty feels real. A villain victory doesn't just shock us, it lingers. It forces questions like, was survival ever possible? Was the outcome inevitable? Did the hero misunderstand the threat? Ambiguous endings stick in your brain long after the credits roll. Clean victories rarely do. Here's where it gets interesting. Older horror movies reassured audiences evil can be defeated. Modern horror asks, what if evil adapts? That's a fundamentally different worldview. Today's audiences are more drawn to morally gray characters, flawed survivors, unstoppable threats, and unresolved conclusions. Not because we're darker people, because we're more skeptical viewers. In classic folklore, the monster represented fear. But in modern horror, the villain often represents inevitability. They become something closer to a cure, a force of nature, a modern boogeyman, which means defeating them feels less believable, and letting them win feels mythic, almost legendary. Is the final girl trope actually dead? Not completely, but it's evolving. The new version of the final girl often survives but is broken. Survives but misunderstood. Survives but not victorious. The story doesn't end with safety anymore. It ends with consequence. The truth is, horror fans don't actually want villains to win. We want the story to feel honest. Sometimes honesty means survival. Sometimes honesty means defeat. And sometimes the scariest ending is the one where the monster walks away and the audience realizes it was never about winning. It was about enduring. And we see that a lot in a lot of the new horror movies. You don't see I think that part of it is that, people want to, directors, writers, they want to come up with something new. They want to come up with something shocking. And I think for a little while there, it was shocking for the, final girl to, fail, that they were human and that they could be taken out. But at the same time, I mean, I could see that it definitely is hopeful to a lot of people when they, are involved in these situations. I know that I've had many conversations with the people kind of discussing what you'd do in that situation if you'd be able to survive, and what you would do to survive, what they did wrong, And I think that it's so much easier to kind of watch something and say what you would do wrong or have a better plan than them when you're not in that situation. I don't know. It's pretty interesting to me. I would like to know what you guys think about that. Go ahead and comment, like, subscribe. Let's talk about the final girl situation. Let's talk about what you think. Tell me about your favorite horror movie, and do you think that you'd be able to survive it? Do you think it's survivable? I mean, there's definitely certain circumstances and certain situations, certain movies where it just feels to me like there was no possible good ending for, the main character. And, another thing to kind of add in there is that on top of the final girl, I think that we've also been kind of seeing a shift also where we, have the final guy at times. And, I think the final girl is just sort of an all-inclusive title for, whoever survives, really. But also, the final girl is usually, very attractive because, let's be honest, everybody wants to see an attractive final girl. And mine, as I've probably, you've probably heard me say before, was Jessica Biel from the 2003 remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I think she is the best final girl. She was the sexiest, in my opinion, final girl. And if you have a different one, please comment. I'd love to know what you think or who your final girl is, who you think the best was, who you think deserved to survive the most. We all know that I've definitely got a large disdain for Sydney Prescott from the Scream franchise. I just don't see how she's still alive. And I don't see how, I just don't get that whole thing. That's just a lot of the older movies, Nightmare on Elm Street and, you know, besides Halloween, of course, Halloween and Scream are very similar in the fact that it was kind of the same final girl throughout most of the series. But, a lot of the other ones, they would kind of Texas Chainsaw Massacre and, like I said, Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th, you'd kind of get a new final girl. If there was a final girl, you'd get a new final girl or a guy, per movie, really. Sometimes it might go into the next, but you never really had like one that survived 8, 9, 10 movies like you do Scream and Halloween. I don't know. I think that gets a little tired. Let me know what you think about that too, because a lot of people argue with me about that. They're like, no, Scream is amazing. And, they can't stand that I dislike it so much. And I don't. I think it should have been a trilogy. I can deal with that. It should have been a trilogy. I could see, Sidney Prescott surviving 3 movies. I could see, but it's just, to me, it gets tired. So let me know what you think about that. Anyway, just a thought I had, just wanted to share with you guys. Have a great day, and I'll see you again soon.